Here's more wrestling news for October 17th, 2021. And your headlines for this afternoon include Tony Khan comments on accidentally leaking AEW Full Gear lineup, Roman Reigns breaks kayfabe and talks about Brock Lesnar's new personality, WWE Performance Center staff went above and beyond to help Baron Corbin, Sasha Banks asked why she pulled out of WWE SummerSlam 2021, Nick Jackson says it was crazy for WWE to let Adam Cole leave, current WWE wrestler may be frontrunner to become Godfather of Cody Rhodes' daughter, there would be no Drew McIntyre without me, says current WWE wrestler, AEW reveals World Title Eliminator tournament brackets, Cody Rhodes vs. Malakai Black 3 announced for AEW Saturday Night Dynamite next week, Rhaka Khan's arrest warrant for aggravated kidnapping has been rescinded, major update on Lacey Evans, and more. We are starting off with Tony Khan, who this week was seen holding a stack of very important documents, what many believe to be the match card for AEW Full Gear. This photograph was snapped at a Jacksonville Jaguars game, and fans were quick to spot the noted AEW World Champion Kenny Omega vs. Adam Page match, seeing the challenger's name was circled. Spoiling your match card is one thing, but spoiling your next world title change is a definite mistake, though some believe that this script could have intentionally been done by Khan to confuse fans. Speaking on Busted Open Radio, Khan didn't confirm or deny the idea that these documents were the Full Gear card, instead saying, "It's funny that people run with assumptions on the internet these days. I've seen all these people jumping to conclusions that, oh, that must be the Full Gear card. It is true, I announced that Kenny vs. Hangman is the main event that we've all been waiting for with Full Gear. It's going to be a huge pay-per-view, it is absolutely booked." With 27 days remaining until the pay-per-view, the Full Gear card is always subject to change, but we'll have to wait until November 13th to know whether Khan actually spoiled his own pay-per-view. At SummerSlam 2021, Brock Lesnar returned to WWE with a completely different look than before. Not only has the Beast returned as a babyface, but he's been rocking a Viking beard and a ponytail, a far cry from his traditional clean-shaven, short-haired aesthetic. Roman Reigns will see Brock's new look up close when they face off at Crown Jewel, and in an interview with Complex, the head of the table was pleased to see the former WWE champion show some more personality. He said, "We got Brock the Butcher nowadays. You've seen a bit of evolution. We're seeing him with different layers and presented in a different light. I think he's more comfortable than he's ever looked on screen, especially with him not having Paul Heyman in his corner to kinda lean on." With reports the next Thursday's match will be just the start of a series of matches between Reigns and Lesnar, with a WrestleMania 38 collision rumored, Brock will have plenty of more opportunities to show his personality, as his current face run has been a hit with everyone so far. In WWE, there's few heels more naturally loathed than Happy Corbin, who's been a bad guy for much of his WWE career. Even when he was down on his luck after losing the King of the Ring crown, fans didn't care for the Lone Wolf, and that was also the case backstage early on in his career. When Mojo Rawley appeared on Shoot Conversations with Chris Hero, the pair discussed Corbin, who Rawley nicknamed Football Tom, and recalled a time when the former US champion deliberately disrespected a legend backstage. Hero said, "The new class that was starting that day, he's like, yeah, they got this new girl, and he was talking about Sarah Amato. I just remember that it happened. I heard at the time that he was told to play it up. That's terrible advice. Sarah Del Rey had just come in at a tryout camp, the same one with Sasha Banks, Sami Zayn, Scott Dawson, and a bunch of them got hired. Sarah got hired as a coach, so she came to Tampa to coach the girls. For him to go, oh yeah, some new girl, jeez." It's hard to deny Corbin's success, as his longevity in WWE speaks for itself, and while the heat he sometimes gets borders on go-away heat, his appalling personality on screen is partly due to the wise advice he got at the Performance Center. In wrestling history, there's been plenty of great gimmicks, and on this week's AEW Dynamite, one of the biggest names in wrestling set foot, quite literally, into an all-elite ring. During a six-man tag between the Super Click and the Dark Order, Evil Uno whipped out Mr. Sacco and used the iconic footwear on Matt Jackson. Jackson sold the move just like getting an authentic mandible claw from Mick Foley himself, and the crowd in Miami popped in a huge way. Sacco's appearance didn't earn the Dark Order the win, as the Super Click eventually reigned supreme in this entertaining six-man tag team match. Foley himself hasn't commented on the spot, but it was a fun nod to the hardcore legend, as in a roster with CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Andrade El Idolo, and other ex-WWE names joining AEW, now Mr. Sacco is all elite. At this year's SummerSlam, Becky Lynch returned to WWE after over a year away, replacing Sasha Banks, who was meant to challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship. Banks' absence was odd to say the least, as SummerSlam could have seen her regain her title she lost to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, but the boss is keeping quiet as to why she missed SummerSlam, as she told the New York Post, "There's no reason. I'm not telling you anything. You're not Oprah. You're not the WWE Network. You're not getting me the views. I'm not telling you my secrets. You can read my book. You can read my documentary when I want to speak about it. Thank you very much." Banks may not be in a talkative mood, but Mike Johnson, a PW insider, reports that the boss never made it to SummerSlam in Las Vegas, and that WWE knew over a week in advance that she wouldn't be there, but promoted her for the show. Her absence from SummerSlam came after she missed several live events due to unforeseen circumstances. In her place, Becky Lynch returned to TV, marking her first match since WrestleMania 36, and it's rumored that her return was WWE's attempt to boost ratings just one day after CM Punk's debut and mere weeks before AEW All Out, where Bryan Danielson, Ruby Soho, and Adam Cole all debuted for Tony Khan's promotion. With Lynch and Belair both moving to Raw after this Thursday's Crown Jewel, Banks will be the only woman from next week's huge triple threat match that'll be staying on SmackDown, and she plans to bring the SmackDown Women's title back to Friday nights. "I can't let Bianca and Becky, two Raw superstars after the draft, take my hard work, my SmackDown Women's Championship, to that show. So I definitely have to make sure that I keep the SmackDown title on Friday Night SmackDown. And with Charlotte Flair coming into the mix on SmackDown, it's definitely going to be a cool little rivalry that we're going to have." Banks may be the only SmackDown superstar in the SmackDown Women's title match, but it's Lynch who's the current favorite to retain in Saudi Arabia, but perhaps the boss will be the hero SmackDown needs and capture the title for the second time next week. At All Out, Adam Cole made his debut for AEW after a 4-year tenure with WWE. In NXT, Cole became the longest-reigning NXT champion and one of the biggest names in the Gold brand, and now brings his name and star power to AEW programming each week. Cole's original deal expired in July, but he signed a 1-month short-term contract so he'd be able to compete at NXT TakeOver 36. And while speaking to Sports Illustrated, Nick Jackson said it was crazy that WWE ever let Cole go. "I can't fully express the happiness I currently have sharing a ring with Adam Cole again. His positivity and energy had really helped the morale in our locker room. I haven't stopped smiling since he showed up. When he arrived, it felt like we finally found that missing piece of the puzzle. The whole gang is finally back together. We hadn't worked together in 5 years, but the chemistry was still there. The dude is a star and getting some of the biggest reactions I've ever heard. I'm still trying to figure that out, but even crazier than resurrecting the dead is letting a superstar walk away from your company to join the competition." With reports that he would have had to cut his hair, change his name, and be a manager on the main roster, Cole is certainly happy to be working with his old friends and girlfriend Britt Baker in AEW, where he's already made an impact in a very short time. Cody Rhodes left WWE in 2016, but he still has plenty of friends who work there, and now one major name could be receiving a huge honor. On Twitter, Rhodes said he's looking for a wrestling friend to be his daughter's godfather, and when a fan suggested Kevin Owens, Rhodes was against the idea, at least at first. In his response, Rhodes said that Owens wouldn't be the godfather, as he once kicked out of a disaster kick after somebody instructed him, but after recalling that it was the prizefighter who introduced him to the Young Bucks and is his Disney buddy, Rhodes concluded saying Owens might be the frontrunner. Owens responded by saying that someone else must have kicked out of the disaster kick, as they only ever faced each other in WWE in a ladder match, and asked when he starts as Godfather. We'll have to see if Owens does receive the role of Godfather, and if so, the former Universal Champion could appear as a guest star on Rhodes to the Top, if WWE allows him to do that. From one former world champion to another, as Jinder Mahal shocked everyone by becoming WWE champion in 2017, having a lengthy run before dropping the title that November to AJ Styles. Fans haven't forgotten about the 2 years of Mahal being a comedy jobber alongside Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre in 3MB, and now 2 members of the band have held the richest prize in WWE. Speaking of Fightful this week, Mahal said that he laid the path for McIntyre's WWE title win in April 2020, saying, "I came to WWE before Drew came back, became WWE champion before Drew, main evented all over the world before Drew, did all this media before Drew. Now Drew touts himself as this great media machine and everything, doesn't stop talking about how much media he does. Guess what? We all do it. I was there, we all do it. We all have our turn. I'm still doing it. I just don't advertise it. You see Drew McIntyre wearing this suit. Where do you think he got his style from? The Maharaja, right? All this swagger, all this confidence. If there was no modern-day Maharaja as WWE Champion, there would be no Drew McIntyre. I showed him the way, I showed him it was possible, I gave him the belief in himself. McIntyre will have the chance to become a 3-time WWE Champion next week when he faces current champion Big E at Crown Jewel, while Mahal will need to defeat Xavier Woods on tomorrow's Raw to qualify for the King of the Ring finals. Touted as the chosen one by Vince McMahon in 2009, McIntyre's WWE Championship win was a long time coming, but Mahal believes he's the man fans need to thank for Drew's huge win. More from AEW as during this week's Dynamite, the AEW World Title Tournament brackets were revealed, which will determine who will be next in line for a world title match at Full Gear. This tournament will begin next week on Rampage as Lance Archer will face Eddie Kingston and Orange Cassidy will take on Powerhouse Hobbs. In non-tournament action, Cody Rhodes vs. Malakai Black 3 will happen on Saturday night's Dynamite, as the former TNT champion looks to finally rid himself of the man who's dominated him since coming to AEW earlier this year. Over to WWE, and we've got news from Lacey Evans, who's become a mother for the second time. On Instagram, the sassy Southern Belle said she had an at-home water birth after discovering that her family couldn't be with her if she'd gone to the hospital. And we'd like to congratulate the Raw superstar on the latest addition to her family. Last month, a warrant was issued for the arrest of former TNA wrestling star Rhaka, who faced charges of interference with child custody and facilitating aggravated kidnapping. These were serious charges to say the least, but Khan won't have to worry about them anymore, as PW Insider reports that her arrest warrant has been rescinded. Khan, who once worked under a WWE developmental contract, was indicted in 2019 and was listed as one of El Paso's most wanted after failing to appear in court. This absence is what led to Khan being issued with a bench warrant, which can be issued by a judge, usually when a defendant fails to appear for a hearing. It remains to be seen what's next for Khan, who still has the 2019 charges against her, but for now, the former WWE and TNA star doesn't have a warrant for her arrest. And we're ending with Minoru Suzuki, who had his third match for AEW this week, losing to Bryan Danielson on the pre-Rampage buy-in. Suzuki is undergoing a huge tour of the United States this year, having also competed for GCW and NJPW Strong, and now the wrestling legend's next promotion has been announced. During this week's Impact, it was confirmed via a teaser video that Suzuki is coming to the company and is expected to start at their tapings after this month's Bound for Glory pay-per-view. Suzuki isn't the only New Japan star to find his way to Impact, as David Finlay, Juice Robinson, El Phantasmo, Jay White, and Satoshi Kojima have all worked for the company in 2021, and fans can soon expect the former IWGP Intercontinental Champion in the Impact Zone. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.